JJ, the CPA is here.
JJ, the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Sorry to be recording this in the car. I am on the fly. Last night I did a sweep like I normally do of anything new. And then this morning I did the same, and boom, SBA released some updated final interim guidelines last night, and they're related to some of the updates from the PPP Flexibility Act, of course related to the CARES Act, of course related to the PPP loan and PPP loan forgiveness. No new application yet. And in this, and I got a personal note at the end real quick, but in this, the covered period is February 15th through December 31st, 2020. And all that means is that this is the period of time that forgiveness is determined. However, it is still just 24 weeks from the date of disbursement. You know, those that got the loan before June 5th, which is when the PPP Flexibility Act was put into play, can still elect the 8 weeks. One of the things about the 8 weeks, and we're going to need more guidelines, we're going to need the application, is that for sure is then only the time frame that you'll need to maintain your employment numbers. However, in additional guidelines and on the application is when we will get confirmation of if you're doing the 24-week period, which if you got the loan June 5th or after, that's what you're doing. But if you do the 24-week period, do you, not answered yet, have to maintain your employment numbers compared to February 15th, 2020 to April 26th, 2020, that entire 24 weeks. So it just basically gave us a little more, but didn't really clarify anything as it relates to that. We know that there's safe harbors in the Flexibility Act that I've already covered, which is if you can't rehire by 12/31 due to the safe harbor allowances, which is couldn't find anybody that was qualified, or they didn't have the same qualifications as who was let go, or your business wasn't able to get back to where it was. These are safe harbors related to the FTEs. It did clarify that there's 10 months from the date of when your forgiveness period would end to then apply for forgiveness. What does that mean? So if you're under the 8 weeks, you have the 8 weeks of the period of time that you're spending the PPP money, or if you're doing the 24 weeks, but then you have 10 months from there to apply for forgiveness. Now, I've had questions on, well, can we apply earlier? If the phone's shaking, I really apologize, but I have zero time to do another update. Not that I'm the only source of your information, but I just feel obligated to get out any updates that I can. But nonetheless, I've been asked, can we apply for forgiveness sooner than that? And the answer on that is we don't know still. Didn't see anything in there. I don't know why not. And when I just mean that is that if you're doing the 24-week period, but after 12 weeks, you've met all your requirements, you're at 100% forgiveness, are you able to apply early? The other reason that you may not be able to do that is if we get clarification, and if you do have to maintain employment numbers for the 24 weeks, then of course you wouldn't be able to apply early, because there would be part of that calculation that would come into play. But I'll tell you this, the SBA has indicated that it's going to be a simplified application coming out. So we'll see on that. And then as it relates to the payroll costs and the non-payroll costs, it didn't change at all the definition of those things. So it's still the same payroll costs. And I did not come across, read it 3 times. I had Amanda read it as well. There's no mention of the application of their interim updated final rule about the self-employed, sole proprietor, single member LLC, independent contractor, those that file Schedule C, or the owner employees. So it's still a huge question mark, which I'm just really disappointed it wasn't in this. Actually, when I saw that there was the guideline that was released yesterday or last night, I was giddy. I was like, oh, we're finally going to get the answer. It's not in there. So there's nothing that we know that's changed about the payroll expenses and the non-payroll expenses in terms of defining it. It did talk about the 24-week now period of forgiveness. And if you're just following that in the CARES Act and in the other update that they had when they funded up more PPP money, everything was 8 weeks. So it was 8 weeks for the employees and 8 weeks for the owners and the self-employed, sole proprietor, single member LLC, independent contractor. It was still the 8 weeks. So when I read this, maybe the SBA is just thinking it's so obvious that everybody's going to get the 24 weeks that they didn't specifically address it. Maybe they'll come out with it in the SBA FAQs. We'll definitely know it when they release a new updated PPP forgiveness application, but there is nothing indicating to us if the owner employees or the self-employed or those that follow into filing Schedule C get the 24 weeks. But at the same time, when I read it, it's like, well, maybe it is just 24 weeks, but nothing on point, nothing to confirm that in any way, shape, or form. And then the Flexibility Act, and what came out of that was that there could be a 5-year repayment, and it was then clarified that that was for those that got a PPP loan June 5th or after. But in these guidelines, it does indicate that the borrower and the lender can still come to an agreement to do 5 years. And if you remember in the CARES Act, it was originally 10 years. So it went from 10 years to 2 years to 5, but only then those getting after June 5th. But then they indicated in this SBA guideline update, the 10 years. So really at the end of the day, know this: when you go to do the forgiveness application, and if there's any amount that's not forgiven for whatever reason, then you need to ask your lender for a longer period of time if that applies to you. And in essence, I don't know why they wouldn't give it to you. So you definitely need to ask, okay, hey, rounding this out, in this guideline that was released yesterday, it further clarified for me at least, because it's specifically stated related to the EIDL advance, that period, if you got an advance at any time, it will reduce down your loan forgiveness. Specifically states that. Now, it specifically talks about if you got an EIDL loan, which is not the advance. That would be like your good old-fashioned traditional loan that you got above and beyond your advance. That with that, if you used any of that for payroll, the loan, then you would need to take your PPP unforgiven amount and your EIDL and roll it into one loan. Why? Not sure. However, what's clear is that regardless of when you got the advance, it is going to reduce down your loan forgiveness. So on the current application, which we already know is outdated for forgiveness, on line 11, it concludes what your loan forgiveness amount is. So whatever that figure comes to, of course, if it's regardless of whether or not that's your loan amount or whether or not that's a lesser amount, all I'm saying is line 11 says, hey, here's how much is forgiven, right? So if $83,333 is forgiven and you got a $100,000 loan, right? Well, then you know the difference you got to pay back. You have to pay back that $16,667. But of that loan forgiveness on line 11, of the $83,000 that I just said to you, if you got an EIDL advance of $3,000, okay, then that loan forgiveness of $8,333 would be reduced by $3,000, and therefore your actual net loan forgiveness after that reduction, of course, would be then $8,033. Which then means you're paying back, almost $20,000. So We all thought for the longest time that only the EIDL that was received on the advance from January 31st to April 3rd did that. But in this, I feel like it now makes it crystal clear that that advance is going to reduce it no matter what. So, all right. Hey, thanks for taking the ride with me. On a personal note, I'm very excited. My son has a huge opportunity today. He's going to pitch in Kansas City. It is, let's see, it's about 7:30 a.m. and we are on our way here in just a few minutes. I had to run an errand, bringing it back, and Coop's ready to hop into the car. I'm going to load this up while we're driving. Amanda's going to put a thumbnail on it. And so anyways, just in a rush, and definitely want to get word out to you. Thanks to all of you that tune in regularly. If this is something that you're catching with me every once in a while, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. It's your first time to watch. I'd really love it if you'd subscribe from the standpoint of I'm trying to put updates out every single day, keeping you apprised. A lot of times I pull out the whiteboard and go through examples with you and numbers and calculations. So I'm doing my best to keep everybody up to date, and you deserve to be kept up to date by JJ the CPA. So I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. You have a great day.
Yeah. JJ, the CPA is here.
JJ, the CPA, has been serving thousands of businesses for the last 27 years. He is also a national speaker teaching CPAs across the U.S. about the latest tax laws, as well as an author and now what many call a YouTuber. Through this COVID era, JJ became a voice of calm during the pandemic, guiding countless businesses, self-employed individuals, and fellow tax pros through the PPP maze. Now, JJ is taking his know-how to help businesses that have asked for his help to rebound out of this mess that no one saw coming. He is doing this out of his own pocket, not for a fee, and to simply show the American business owner that they are not alone. JJ, America's CPA, is here to help save the entrepreneurial spirit, one business at a time.
The CPA is here, been doing this for years. We bout to get your money right, you got nothing to fear. From the burbs to the ghetto, put the pedal to the metal. I got my mind